welcome, and thank you for attending the Cool Cleveland Editorial Board meeting. Today is September 26, 2013. We are in the beautiful art gallery of the historic Old Stone Church here on Public Square in beautiful downtown Cleveland. Joining us today is Cleveland mayoral candidate Ken Lanci. Ken, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you very much.
We reserved the first 10 of our 30 minutes. It'll be a little less than that today, about 25 minutes to hear from you in support of your candidacy. We'll use the remaining 20 minutes for Q&A with our editorial board. The session is being videotaped and it'll be posted to coolcleveland.com to allow our readers a better chance to understand the issues and candidates as they prepare to vote in the upcoming November 5th general election. We will use this session to help us prepare our editorials and our endorsements. So thank you for that. I'm Thomas Mulready, publisher of coolcleveland.com. I'm joined by our writers and editors who provide regular coverage of civic affairs and politics each week in Cool Cleveland. Mansfield Frazier, Richey Piiparinen, Anastasia, Pantsios, and Larry Durston. So Mr. Lanci, thanks so much for joining us. Go ahead and feel free to tell us why we should endorse you as candidate and why our readers should vote for you in the upcoming election.
Wow. I guess the most important thing that you should all know is that this is typically a political race, and I am not political, so that sounds like a politician starting out with a lie, but I am biblical. And for those that don't know my story, 6 years ago I died in a massive cardiac arrest, which, when they talk about life-changing or life-altering experiences, this could be identified as one of those, but not in the typical way of changing what I've done my whole life. It just gave me the full knowledge and understanding that going forward, what I had always done, I have to do 100%, but not for me. It's for the greater good of all. I was born in Cleveland in the projects, 110th and Woodland. My family was poor, grew up, one would say poor, but not without food, clothing, roof over our heads. But as time went on, graduated high school, wanted to go be a doctor, but God had a different plan, and I ended up being in a family business that was bankrupt 3 years prior, and then my father started over and was virtually bankrupt again. So with the help of two mentors, two Jewish men, one a lawyer, one a businessman, took me under their wing and taught me life and exposed me to things that I'd never even thought of. Coming from an Italian gene pool of bricklayers, cement finishers, and landscapers, I'm good at all of those. I have uncles that are carpenters and electricians and plumbers, and I'm good at that as well. But this side of the other side of the world of business, I had nobody in my life, and so that was a life-changing experience. And from that, I was able to learn turnarounds, which became my career. For the last 40 years, I've done dozens of turnaround startups of companies, and have been very blessed and exceeded my dreams well beyond any expectation I ever had. So the giving back to the community, I've been doing it for 20 years, my wife and I and our family, but this was a definite nudge for, okay, you've done well, I've blessed you, and I've been grateful the whole time, but take those skills that I've blessed you with and now give it to the greater good of all. And that's what I've been doing. That led me down a path of politics, which I just couldn't believe. Last time I ran, I had that sense of, boy, this is a dirty business, and I don't know why he wants me to do this, but I'm in. It's for the greater good of all. But I learned a tremendous amount, and having lost, pondered why I had that experience. Unlike other politicians, I do due diligence, which I've learned to do very well over 40 years, knowing, determining what I'm getting into before I get into it, because typically I'm going to buy something, I'm going to use my own money. I have to know that before I spend it, I could actually fix it or turn it around or start it and make it a success. And had I had the opportunity to buy the county, I'd have bought it. I had over 60 meetings with directors, was able to understand their issues, and more importantly, understand that the solutions were not all that difficult. It's just that politics is, it's done this way, this is the way we've always done it, and people are afraid to do things that create changes. So as a result of that, I came away with a tremendous amount of knowledge, and then the mayoral race came up, and because it had the educational piece that the county didn't have, and plus it controls the airport, the water department, the lakefront, and it really controls the region, I felt that this was a position that I could actually have the greatest impact for the greater good of all. And so rather than be political, I realized that God wanted me to be biblical. Bring back God's word, faith, hope, and love, 1 Corinthians. As I've been through the community, and I've been involved for probably intimately for the last 8 years in the schools with our one-site eyeglass program my wife and I brought to Cleveland. The need is substantial. The fact that the schools are worse off today than they were 8 years ago. The fact that the murder rate is higher today than it was 8 years ago. And poverty is higher than it was 8 years ago. So it was clear to me that this is a community that surely could use the benefit of faith, hope, and love. And I'm just the messenger. And this is what I'm doing.
Great.
End of that one.
Thank you very much. And thank you for being concise, because now we're ahead of schedule again, so thank
There we
you.
go.
Yes,
Mr. Lanci.
on several occasions you have said that in the first 200 days you will put the quote house in order. Now, that's a generality kind of statement, and if you could give me specific, or you would consider yourself a failure if you didn't do this after 200 days, will you give me specific items that you think are out of order that you will put in order in your first 200 days?
Mr. Durston, you made mention that on several occasions I've made that statement. When was it?
You made a statement, I believe, in your opening statement at, are you saying you never made a statement?
I'm saying I made that statement, but I read that from Frank Jackson's statement in 2006 when he took office on
Okay.
his inaugural.
Okay.
That's what he said.
He said he's going to put 200,
Oh, yeah, he said 200 days.
and what did you say?
I just said what he did, he failed. He didn't do it.
So you're saying that you didn't say this 200-day thing?
No, I
Or
didn't.
in the
I
house in
didn't,
order?
no.
What did you mean by, what do you mean by this, I am biblical?
I am biblical. I mean, the choices that we have in our lives, you could serve government and money, or you can serve God and his people. I've taken up as a life's work going forward to serve God and his people. So that's biblical.
How does that translate into specific things that you would do as mayor?
Well, it translates specifically into be able to change the culture of the city. The culture that has the 137 bullets. The culture that at the end of the day, where the mayor won't sit with activists, he won't sit with reverends and activists and the police, because I've negotiated many contracts, millions and millions of dollars worth of contracts, and I've never had a solution or negotiated a completion without anybody at the table. And so my experience, plus my conversations with the police, my conversations with the activists, my conversations with the reverends, are all desiring to get together to be able to do that. And I've started that. The activists will never, in my administration, protest on the steps of City Hall. And I've told them that. And at first they were like a little offended. But the truth is they have to have an office inside City Hall. They have to be able to bring their concerns, and we as a community and an administration have put together, and I've said, I've talked to the police, 6 police officers, not white shirts, reverends that are chosen by the community, to be able to deal with issues as they come up. It is no secret that people and children are killing children. We have drive-by bicycle shootings. There is no faith, there is no hope, and there's the lack of love, because if we love yourself, you learn to love other selves, and if you don't love other selves, you kill them. This is what we're dealing with. And that is what I mean by being biblical. Basic tenets of living that I grew up with, that
How would you translate that into action in City Hall as opposed to just, what programs or?
Changing the culture. The culture in City Hall is not of public service. The culture in City Hall is like most political
What would you
organizations.
do to change that culture?
You mandate that people treat each other with respect. You mandate and you lead by example that if we're going to be a public servant, we serve the public. We don't dictate to the public. And if we can't serve the public and be happy about that and treat them with respect, you should find another career.
Well, how would you serve the public specifically, aside from just saying treat everybody with respect?
By being involved in the public, okay? By doing what I've always done, by creating teams, all right, that actually respect the leaders that are put in place. And the way they do that is you have a leader who commands respect, all right, who earns the respect. Not through fear, through respect.
What will you do specifically? Are you going to come out with a written policy?
Written policy.
Are you going to fire people if they don't do this, or how?
Well, I'm on record, I'm firing the police chief and
Right.
the safety director, and nobody gets fired as long as they can adapt to the culture. You can adapt to the culture and you can do the job, you can stay here forever. I don't have a problem. Listen, I've turned around many organizations, and if I didn't believe that I could go in and change this culture, all right, I wouldn't be involved here. And it's just plain common sense that's lacking. Business sense, where they take and spend millions of dollars of taxpayer money for things that are not necessary.
Like what?
Oh, how about let's get a diversity study to see if in fact we comply, and let's go with a $1 million no bid contract. Okay, and then get that study that has the names of other cities in it, because it's a boilerplate study. And the reason we did no bid is because, which is illegal, but we got a discount. How do you get a discount on an item that you don't know what it's going to cost? That isn't done in business. That's not done in real life. Only in government that's done. Because nobody cares. There's no skin in the game here. All right? They spend the money, and there was no repercussions for that either. In my opinion, that's a criminal act. In my opinion, that person should have been fired. $300,000 down on a contract for gasification, which is experimental and has never been proven. And in 1984 caused the deaths of 3 people in Akron. So we give somebody 300 grand, and then they agree that $450,000 is paid if we don't go forward or if it doesn't work. And then when the EPA tells us it's not $26 a yard for what we were told by the consultant, it's $110 a yard. So that means he lied. That means that contract should be void. But we decide, after we get sued for $450,000, to settle it for $250,000. Now, any good lawyer, any good businessman would have sued him for the $300,000 that was given under the false pretenses. But that's not done. So it just begs the question, what happened to the first $300,000? And why wouldn't the city take him to task? I would say, when you throw away $550,000 of taxpayers' money, that is absolutely irresponsible. That money could be redirected to safety forces or into the community where it belongs.
Now, many of these issues that you're bringing up also involve city council, which brings up something that I'd like to ask is, when you're a turnaround person, you're the expert, you get input from people, you make the decisions. If you're running government, you can't do that because government is a collaborative thing. How would you work with city council? You can't just go in there and say, well, I'm going to change your culture, do it my way. How would you finesse that relationship?
Finessing a relationship comes through the ability to work with people and to be able to show them, all right, what is the better way. Now, in politics, you don't have the ability to do the right thing all the time. And the reason is because you either need a job, you need a career, you need the money from business to get reelected, or you need the party to push your career. Don't need the money, don't need a career, don't need a job, and I don't need the party. I'm there to work for the greater good of all the people for the very first time. I'm coming in as a politician totally free from any constraints to do what I need to do for you. As long as I deal fairly with everybody, there won't be any complaints. And getting counsel to do the right thing, it'll be very easy. Because if you come in and work every day, a good day's work for a good day's pay, there'll be no problems. There'll be no problems at all. If you serve the residents, no problem. But if you don't serve the residents, again, if you're a public servant and you're not going to serve your residents, because I'm out on the street talking to residents that have never met their council person after 4 years or 8 years. That can't be. When they have problems, they don't get solved.
You know, many of these issues that you talk about, serving the greater good, that you're biblical, that you want to do what's right, it seems very subjective. It seems like you're suggesting that we all sort of understand what's right and what's the greater good. But you're also insinuating that your way is better than, say, Frank Jackson's way, that your culture would be better than, say, Frank Jackson's way. You're also talking about the Bible quite a bit. You have quotes on your advertising, 1 Corinthians, you mentioned it a couple times here that you're biblical. What is your religious background, and how is that going to affect the decisions that you make in politics?
It's a two-part question.
What is your religious background?
Catholic, Christian.
How is that going to affect the decisions that you make on a day-to-day basis when you're dealing with people who may disagree with you on your religion, who may, in other parts of the world, be fighting against people of your religion, and you have to get along with them here and as you say, change the culture to your way of thinking when they may have a very different worldview?
Okay, good question. I wish I was running for president to answer that one. But the reality of Cleveland is that my culture is treat people the way you expect to be treated. Every company that I've owned or turned around or partnered with has that culture. Teach and treat people the way you expect to be treated.
Are you saying Frank Jackson doesn't do that?
I am telling you that the lack of communication that is going on at City Hall, the pettiness that's going on, the lack of respect for leaders is not how you form a cohesive organization. And as far as my biblical, yes, I have visions of seeing this country, living the American dream again. I have visions of this country where we can get by killing each other in mass. I have visions of poverty going down instead of going up through education and mentoring. This stuff is all basic. And again, biblical, plain and simple, means that I am going to treat others the way that I expect to be treated, that they should be treated. People come to work with me every day. That should be a good time for them. It's called work, but no swearing, no screaming at anybody. And I know my culture is different than a lot of companies, but I have been with people like that. And I've never seen anybody go into an office or stand in a group of people and get screamed at by a superior and say, that was good, I got back to work, man, I feel great. It doesn't happen. It flows down.
Yeah, I have another question. Now, are you saying that you were sort of guided by God to run for mayor?
What I'm telling you, plain and simple, is that the life that I've had in the past, which was giving to community, giving to God, giving to family, giving to friends, all right, is the same thing I'm doing today, except it's 100%. And so, with that process, that thought process is how do I best serve the greatest amount of people with the gifts that I've been given by God, that I'm grateful for. And that best way for me is to be able to get in a position. See, I tried, after I ran for county, I tried to go to Ed Fitzgerald and help and give the information, the solutions that were discussed. Ed Fitzgerald won't call me back. He refused to see me. He refused to talk to me. I went to the mayor, all right? I spoke to the mayor. I presented a reimagined Cleveland plan, all right? Didn't want to deal with it. Project Love ended up being a program that we had tremendous success in the schools, from a nearly 30% graduation rate for at-risk girls to 80%. And when I pushed to get it expanded, it fell on deaf ears. And so at that point, I knew that that's what I had to do going forward.
Okay, I got another question, Father. You
Sure.
kind of,
We have about
Part of-
5 minutes. Just
part of your appeal is that you're a non-politician.
Mhm.
Okay, most of the people that you're going to be dealing with if you become mayor are politicians. And you've already kind of like implied that it's sort of a dirty business, and you really have kind of treated that career politician with a contempt. What makes you think that they're going to cooperate with that? With what the disdain that you seem to have for them?
It's not disdain. I think I express what the entire country, the 99%, have, which is a disappointment. It's not disdain, it's disappointment. How people can go into public service and care more about self, care more about career and party than they do about the people that they serve.
Well, how do you expect to deal with these people if they're like
Very
that?
easily. I've been dealing with people my whole life.
You just said you went to the
Republicans.
mayor in Fitzgerald and you got nowhere.
Exactly, because I wasn't in a position of authority to be able to sit at the table. They could discount the non-person who's not at their level. But becoming mayor, if I invite Ed Fitzgerald or wherever the county executive is to sit down and talk about solutions, you don't think they're going to show up?
And you think that just your position is going to salve everything over with these
It's not
politicians?
sabbing you to everything over. Having a position to be able to represent people, all right? And that's what our system is about. Representing people will require people to sit with me so we can work out solutions. If they don't want to work them out, that's okay. But let them explain it to the media. Because at the end of the day, transparency, how many times have you heard politicians say, we're going to have a transparent government, we're going to have a transparent city, country, whatever. And how often does that work out? How has that worked out for the average citizen? Not well.
Let me ask you about your loss in the Cuyahoga County executive race.
Yes.
What did you learn from that?
Wow. What I learned is that I had over 1,000 meetings and events in 10 months. What I learned after being in over 60 of the offices, directors' offices, and speaking with them 2 to 3 hours each, was that the biggest disappointment is that the level of corruption that exists, the patronage that existed, whereby...
I'm saying, what did you learn
I'm telling
personally?
you, I'm telling you what I learned. What I learned is that solutions are never provided because the director doesn't have them. The solutions are never provided because they have fear of affecting somebody that is protected. And therefore, we just do what we've always done. That's how we stay employed, we have families, we have children. We just do what's been done. That's what I learned, and that's what's got to change. Good people need to be able to use their brains and provide those good ideas for the greater good.
We have about 2 minutes. If there's anything else that you'd like to say,
Why
Mr.
don't you ask me
Lanci?
anything?
Yeah, so the problem with, I think, the biblical is, the religion in America is capitalism, right? And there's certain realities that go with capitalism. I came across a great quote, and it said, the first law of economics is scarcity. The first law of politicians is to ignore the first law of economics. And so, I guess what I'm saying is there's a lot of complex situations economically that hurt Cleveland, that hurt the region. Disinvestment, post-industrialization, automation, huge things that are very complex, that need complex solutions. So just saying that I have the faith to create a feel-good culture to fix that, I mean, because I study economic development, this is what I do.
Right.
It just doesn't fly with me as far as an answer.
So let me just put this up for you. I've created thousands of jobs in my life, okay? I've traveled the world. I've seen the world. I've seen places where things have moved much faster than they have not only in the city but in the country. I've seen places in the world that have developed. I've seen places in the country that have developed far beyond what Cleveland has developed. And I can tell you that having the experience of starting things from absolutely nothing, okay, or taking a company that is virtually dead, and before it dies, people that are left, I'm able to go in, breathe life, turn it around, and create jobs. That experience, okay, qualifies me to be able to look at the assets of this city, okay, just as it's any organization, leverage those assets to be able to create business and jobs that we are able to do here in Cleveland.
Thank you very much, and we're out of time for today, but thank you so much, Mr. Lanci, for joining us today.
Thank
I know
you.
you have a very busy schedule. Thank you.
Thank you very much.